Ruby. It is said that old man Feng from Guangping County has a son with the same name. Both father and son are scholars. The old man is nearly 60 years old and has an upright character, but his family is impoverished. Within a few years, the old lady and her daughter-in-law died one after another, and old man Feng had to do all the housework himself. One night, Shangru was sitting under the moonlight when he suddenly saw a woman from the east neighbor peeking over the wall. Shangru looked at her carefully. She was very beautiful. When Shangru approached her, the woman smiled at him. When Shangru waved to her, the woman neither came nor walked away. After repeated requests, the woman climbed up the ladder from the wall. So, the two slept together. Shangru asked her name, and the woman said, "I am the daughter next door. My name is Hongyu." Feng Sheng liked her very much and agreed to be friends with her forever, and Hongyu agreed. From then on, the two went back and forth every night. About half a year later, Mr. Feng got up in the middle of the night and heard a woman talking and laughing in his son's room. I took a peek and saw a woman inside. Old man Feng was furious, called his son out, and cursed. "What have you done, you beast? Our family is so poor, and instead of studying hard, you learn to do lewd things. If others find out, your moral character will be lost. If others don't know, it will also damage your life." Feng Sheng knelt down to admit his mistake and said with tears that he would repent. Old man Feng scolded Hongyu again and said, "A woman who doesn't abide by the nuptial precepts not only taints herself but also taints others. If someone discovers this, it won't be just our family who will be embarrassed." After scolding, he went back to sleep angrily. Hongyu cried and said, "Father's teachings are really shameful. Our fate is over." Feng Sheng said, "Father is here. I can't make my own decisions. If you are affectionate, you should endure the humiliation." The woman resolutely broke off the relationship, and Feng Sheng burst into tears. The woman said to him, "You and I have no matchmaking words or parents' orders. We have a private marriage. How can we grow old together? There is a beautiful woman here. You can marry her." Feng Sheng said that his family was poor, and the woman said, "Wait for me tomorrow night, and I will find a way for you." The next night, Hongyu came as expected, took out 40 taels of silver and gave it to Feng Sheng, saying, 60 miles away from here, there is a Wu village. The girl from the Wei family in the village is 18 years old. Because she wants the betrothal gift is very high, so I haven't been betrothed to him yet. If you use a lot of money to satisfy his family's request, they will definitely agree to it. After saying this, he said goodbye and left. Feng Sheng took the opportunity to tell his father that he wanted to go on a blind date in Wukan, but he concealed Hongyu's gift of silver. Old man Feng was worried that his family was poor and had no money, so he refused to let his son go. Feng Sheng said tactfully, "I just went to test it out and see how it goes." Old man Feng nodded in agreement. Feng Sheng borrowed servants, carriages and horses and went to Wei's house. The old man named Wei was a farmer. Feng Sheng called him out and told him that he wanted to propose marriage to him. Old man Wei knew that Feng Sheng's family was a reputable family, and saw that he was well-groomed and open-minded, so he agreed in his heart. But he was worried that his family would not be willing to spend money. Feng Sheng heard his hesitant words and understood what he meant, so he took out all the money and put it on the table. Old Wei was so happy that he asked a neighbor's scholar to be the matchmaker and wrote a marriage contract on red paper. Feng Sheng went into the house to meet his mother-in-law and saw that the house they lived in was very narrow. Wei Nu was nestling behind his mother. Feng Sheng glanced at her sideways and was secretly happy to see that Wei Nu was bright and beautiful even though she was from a poor family. Old man Wei borrowed his house to entertain his son-in-law and said to Feng Sheng, "Young master does not need to marry you in person. I will prepare some clothes and dowry for your daughter and send them off in a sedan chair." Feng Sheng set a date to get married with him and went back. After returning home, Feng Sheng lied to his father and said that the Wei family liked the poor family and did not want betrothal gifts. Old man Feng was also very happy. When the day came, the Wei family sent their daughter as expected. After Wei Nu passed away, she was diligent, thrifty, filial, and had a deep relationship with her husband. 2 years later, a boy was born, named Fu. Once, during the Qingming festival, Feng Sheng and his wife went to visit the grave with their children in their arms and met a gentleman named Song from the county. The man surnamed Song once served as a censor, but was dismissed for bribery. He returned home and lived in seclusion, but he still exerted great power. On this day, he also came back from visiting the grave and saw that Wei Nu was very beautiful. He asked people in the village and learned that she was Feng Sheng's wife. The man surnamed Song thought that Feng Sheng was a poor scholar, and that he could win his heart by bribing him with a lot of money, so he sent his family to talk to him. When Feng Sheng heard the news, his face was filled with anger. Then he thought about it. Unable to defeat the power of the Song family, he calmed down his anger, put on a smile, and went in to tell his father. When old man Feng heard this, he was furious. He ran out and pointed at the Song family and cursed them. The Song family members ran away like mice. The man surnamed Song was also angry. He sent many people to break into Feng Sheng's house and beat old man Feng and Feng Sheng. The noise was as loud as a boiling pot. When Wei Nu heard this, she threw the child on the bed, let her hair down and shouted for help. The guy swarmed up, lifted her up, and left her in a hurry. Old man Feng and his son were seriously injured and fell to the ground groaning. The child was wailing in the house. The neighbors took pity on them and helped the father and son to the bed. One day later, Feng Sheng was able to get up on crutches, but the old man was so angry that he couldn't eat and vomited blood and died. Feng Sheng burst into tears and carried his son to complain, all the way to the provincial governor. He complained many times but still could not get his grievances redressed. Later, when Feng Sheng heard that his wife did not obey the man named Song and died, he was even more sad, full of resentment, and nowhere to complain. He wanted to assassinate Song on the road many times, but he was afraid that he would have many servants and that his son would have nowhere to live. I grieve day and night and can't sleep. One day, a big man suddenly came to Feng's house to express his condolences. The man had a curly beard and a square face. He had never been in contact with the Feng family. Feng Sheng pulled him down and was about to ask him the name of his hometown when the guest suddenly asked, "You have the hatred of killing your father and taking your wife. Have you forgotten to take revenge?" Feng Sheng suspected that he was a detective of the Song family, just using lies to socialize. The guest was so angry that his eyes were about to burst. He opened his eyes angrily and stood up suddenly. As he walked out, he said, "I thought you were a gentleman, but now I know that you are a vulgar person who is not worth mentioning." Feng Sheng saw that he was indeed a stranger, hurriedly knelt down to persuade him to stay, and said, "I am really afraid that people from the Song family will test me. Now I will tell you everything in my heart. I have been waiting for an opportunity to take revenge for a long time. I just feel sorry for my infant baby. I'm afraid that the incense of the Feng family will be cut off. You are a righteous man. Can you raise the children for me?" The guest said, "This is a matter for women. I can't do it. If you want to entrust others to do it, please do it yourself. And I am willing to do it for you if you want to do it yourself." After hearing this, Feng Sheng knelt on the ground and kowtowed. The guest went out without even looking. Feng Sheng chased him out and asked him his last name. The guest said, "If you don't succeed, you won't be blamed. If you succeed, you won't be rewarded." After that, he laughed. Feng Sheng was afraid of causing disaster and ran away with his son in his arms. At night, when everyone in the Song family was asleep, someone entered over several walls and killed the father and son named Song, a daughter-in-law, and a slave. The Song family took the petition to the government, and the government was shocked. The Song family insisted that Feng Sheng was responsible, and the government sent officials to arrest Feng Sheng. Feng Sheng escaped and disappeared, and the government believed that Feng Sheng was the one who killed him. The servants of the Song family and the government officials searched everywhere. When they came to Nanshan at night, they heard the child crying and followed him. They caught Feng Sheng, tied him up and took him back. The child cried even harder. The gang snatched the child and threw it away. Feng Sheng was so resentful that he wanted to die. Seeing the county magistrate, the magistrate asked Feng Sheng, Why did you kill people? Feng Shang said, It's unfair. He died at night. I went out during the day. And I was holding a crying child. How could I cross the wall? Killing. The county magistrate said, No killing. Why did you escape? Feng Shang was speechless, unable to explain, and was imprisoned. Feng Shang cried and said, It's not a pity that I died. What's the crime of being an orphan? The county magistrate said, You have killed many people in your family. What's the point of killing your son? Feng Shang was expelled from his job and tortured many times, but he never confessed. That night, the county magistrate had just fallen asleep when he heard something hitting the bed, making a shaking sound. The magistrate screamed in fright, and the whole family was awakened by him. He came round and illuminated it with a candle. It turned out to be a short knife as sharp as frost. It was stuck into the bed for more than an inch and could not be pulled out. The county magistrate looked at it and was devastated. He sent people with swords and guns to search everywhere, but there was no trace. The county magistrate was very timid and thought that the man named Song was already dead, and there was nothing to fear. So he reported the case to the superior government office, defended Feng Shang, and released him. When Feng Shang returned home, there was not a grain of food in the urn, and he was alone in the empty house. Fortunately, his neighbors took pity on him and brought him some food, so he could barely survive. Feng Shang smiled when he thought that his great revenge had been avenged. He also shed tears when he thought about suffering this cruel disaster, in which almost his whole family was killed. Then he thought about being extremely poor for half his life, losing his son, and cutting off his incense. I couldn't help but cry loudly in a place where no one was round, unable to suppress it. After half a year of this, the government also relaxed its pursuit of the prisoners. So Feng Shang went to the county magistrate to plead with the county magistrate, asking for the Wei family's bones to be awarded to him. After burying his wife's bones and returning home, Feng Shang was so distraught that he tossed and turned on the empty bed, feeling that he could no longer live. Suddenly he heard a knock on the door. Feng Shang listened carefully and heard someone outside the door talking to a child in a low voice. Feng Shang stood up hurriedly and looked out from the crack in the door. He seemed to be a woman. As soon as she opened the door, the woman asked, The injustice has been cleared up. I'm glad you are safe and sound. The voice was very familiar, but I couldn't remember who it was in my haste. When illuminated by candlelight, it turned out to be Hongyu, holding a child on her arm and laughing beside her legs. Feng Shang didn't have time to ask, so he hugged Hongyu and cried. Hongyu also burst into tears, then pushed the child in front of him and said, Have you forgotten your father? The child held Hongyu's clothes and looked at Feng Shang with burning eyes. Feng Shang took a closer look and saw that it was Fuer. He was very surprised and cried. Where did you find your son? Hongyu said. To tell you the truth, in the past I said it was a neighbor's daughter. It was a lie. I actually said it's a fox fairy. I happened to be walking at night that day and saw the child crying at the mouth of the valley, so I took him to Shaanxi to raise him. I heard that the disaster was over, so I brought him to reunite with you. Feng Shang thanked him with tears. The child in Hongyu's arms felt like he was nestling in his mother's arms, but he no longer recognized his father. Before dawn, Hongyu hurriedly got up, and Feng Shang asked her what she was doing. She replied, I want to go back. Feng Shang knelt naked on the bedside, crying so hard that he couldn't lift his head. Hongyu smiled and said, I lied to you. Now that our family is in a new position, we have to get up early and go to bed late, then cut the weeds, clean the yard, and do it like a man. Feng Shang was worried that his family was poor and could not make ends meet. Hongyu said, Just study hard behind closed doors and don't ask about the family's profit or loss, and you won't starve to death. So he spent money to buy textile tools, rented dozens of acres of land, and hired servants to work the land. She carries a hoe to weed and brings in vines to repair the house every day. When the people in the village heard that Feng Shang's daughter-in-law was so wise, they were willing to help her. About half a year later, the population was prosperous and the family was wealthy. Feng Shang said, It's already the end of the world. Thanks to you starting from scratch, there is only one thing that has not been arranged properly. What should I do? When asked what it was, he said, "The exam date is approaching, but the scholar's qualifications have not been restored." Hongyu smiled and said, "I sent for Tales of Silver to the academic officer a few days ago, and your name has been re-registered. If I had waited for you to tell me, I would have made a mistake long ago." Feng Sheng felt even more amazing. This time Feng Sheng passed the exam. He was 36 years old. His family had fertile fields and a spacious house. The ruby is light and soft, as if it can be blown away by the wind, but its handling is better than that of a peasant woman. Although it was a severe winter and a lot of hard work, my hands were still as delicate as fat. I said I was 28 years old, but others looked like they were in their early 20s.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.